Alrighty. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite Warlock, practicing necromancer, and dark arts practitioner. So, I was doing a lot of contemplation last night while researching and practicing, and it was interesting to see just how much philosophy plays into everyday life when it deals with painful sorcery or wrathful sorcery. Now, black magic has various different levels to it. And over the last 3 years, just the last 3 years alone, through my intense studies and practices, going through the world's mythologies and histories, ranging from Slavic, Germanic, Irish, um, Scottish, and even down into the African Caribbean traditions of black magic. It's it's really amazing to view just how much of the philosophies literally interact with magical systems. For an example, when you get into things like poetry and actual context of, say, Stoicism or, say, Shintoism. Shintoism is a Japanese tradition that is surrounded not only through physical things like Bushido, but also deals with the political aspects. Okay. Not just this, but it also goes into the spiritual, dealing with their gods and goddesses of their traditions. It's the same thing within throughout Asia. Asian communities, and going up into India and Slavic traditions, European traditions, going as far back as Indo-European cultures, and it is very intriguing to see. Now, for me, I've had a lot of people contact me. They want to either join me, they want to be like me, or they want me to train them or just perform some form of spells for them. And I was going over this morning, I was going over, let me bring it up here, Marcus Aurelius, the Book of Meditations, and I wrote down a few things. And in part one, you have how quickly all things disappear. Okay. And it's funny that this is the opposite of what a lot of people are requesting. Okay. And I just want to put this out there for you because everybody wants to gain something, be it power, be it money and vast wealth, popularity. They want to be a part of something. They want to have their own coven, their own temples, have some kind of something, be it vengeance, but do you actually stop to think about what happens after that injustice is made justice? You know what I'm saying? Not many people actually think about this stuff. So it's easy to create, it's easy to build that wealth up, to gain that popularity through shenanigans online. I For an example, look at Balk. Okay, you look at they've got a vast number of multitude of followers. Okay, even after this so-called attack upon E.A. Wedding, aka Matthew Lawrence. And as I said in my last video, I love the way he represented himself, but I'm not a big fan of Ball in general. And like I said, I've also done experiments on their platforms, just posting here and there. But it's it's really an interesting faucet to see. And when I say faucet, I'm thinking more of the lines of a diamond. Okay, because when you look at any given spot on a diamond, there is this window, this portal that will allow you to seek the future self. It allows you to peer into the various different possibilities within your magical studies, within your philosophy. Now, you remember I said poetry, plays. Okay, look at the Faustbach. Okay, this later became known as the Black Raven or the threefold coercion of hell, a magical system that allows a practitioner through the use of angelic or demonic pact making communions, utilizing angels, demons, jinn, whatever, from perspective of Dr. Faust, Dr. Faustus. Okay, so you see where those two coexist, but it's always been hard to create though, and that's the thing that is the illusion. I don't know about you, but I look at how long it's taken me to get my channel where it is today, my image. I look at all the I look at all the hoops that I've had to jump through, all the obstacles and the distractions, but I also look at the possibilities and the benefits of how far I've come. Okay, the things that I'm grateful for, you know, but also the things that is baffling to me. Okay, that's what I mean by the facets or the faucets within a diamond shape, crystal. So it's always been hard to create, but it's always easy to destroy. Okay. And what happens when you lose everything? I mean, I look at some of my former enemies. They used to be big time occultists. Okay. Big time. And one is now straddling that double edged sword. He's running his own platform, but at the same time, he's practicing both Satanism and the Judeo Christian practices of Christianity. He's trying to serve two masters and he's just losing everything. I've had people come to me, every so often, keeping me updates on him, and it's like how the mighty has fallen. You used to have this mass following, and now you got nothing. You know what I'm saying? You got people out there that are creating hype, and now, and they've only been in the practices for like say 2, maybe 3 years. 1 to 3 years, and they think they're all that. And then all of a sudden you end up like Ellie Mercury, 21 to 24 months in prison. You know, as in prison term. He had this huge following through his little shenanigans, and now he's nothing. All because he did not heed the warnings. He did not listen to the spirits. He did not practice what he preached. And it shows between the real and the fake because those who truly are practitioners are going to put the time and commitment, not just the dedication through blood, sweat, and tears and the hardships into their practices. So this really spoke to me as in how quickly all things disappear because it keeps you humbled knowing that you could lose everything. Okay. And then you have things like this kid that went over and slaughtered two women over in England, all because he associated the platform of Baal. And it's interesting because a lot of people assume that that seed was not there. Hey, babe, Everett's calling for you. Sorry about that. But anyways, um, people forget that these seeds are already in you. Okay, you just have to choose to nourish that aspect or not to. I'm reminded of a lineage proverb because I'm part Native American on my father's side. There's an old proverb which states that there are two wolves, a white wolf and a black wolf, that are in a tug of war for your soul, so to speak. The black wolf, which is there to destroy or to bring you down into misery, that's this kid, this murderer, this young pup who murdered these two women after making a blood pact and all that crap through EA Wedding's platform. So it's interesting because of the fact that this kid chose to nurture that aspect. That's on that kid. But then you have those who want to nurture their magical and spiritual sides through evolution and through research and committed um, experimentation, okay, of their craft. It is said that to master the world, you must first master yourself, okay? Again, philosophy, okay? So when we look at the old mages and sages, I want you to take a look at this. Why is it that every story, every grimoire that you read basically states that these mages, these sages, these witches and warlocks, they either stayed away from society or they locked themselves away for a number of years. And that it really becomes apparent that they were there doing this so they can master themselves, they can master their art. I mean, when you look at the witch's creed out of example, why is it the first thing is know to know? Okay. Know thyself, know thy craft. Okay. To will to do what is necessary. Okay. So when you have somebody that goes out and chooses to nurture that destructive side, like Ellie Mercury, or that of say EA Wedding, or that little butt munch there that supposedly followed him, okay, and frequented his platform, okay. It's really interesting that when it comes to the legal process, black magic, if you go into, say, for an example, Osiris in Egyptian mythology, he's known as the god of iniquity, basically the feather of your own guilt versus that of the gold, okay, the scale of justice. Why do you think when you go into a courtroom, they always have that gavel? They have that little scale on their bench. Okay, so like black magic and sorcery, the legal system states go after the guilty party. Okay, and it's interesting because Marcus Aurelius, who lived back in the days of the Roman Empire, really saw this, and he says, "Punish only he who has committed the crime." Only committed the crime. You don't want to lash out at a bunch of people, not wildly not knowing who did it. This is why it's good to know your research. And as Sun Tzu so colorfully put it, know thyself to know thy enemy. Basically, know what you're capable of, and you'll know what your enemy's capable of. Study your opponent, and you'll know what he's capable of. And then you have to decide: Am I at that? Am I at that level? Okay, or can I go beyond it? Think of the revenant, okay, aspect here of the wraith, if you wish. The wraith basically is an immortal being, feeds off the life force. The revenant is just a revenant of a soul, a spirit, a disincarnated being, and it's an aspiration. Basically, it's an apparition, and it's really fascinating to see just how these things go, correlate. So once you've come to that opinion that you need to seek justice. And A lot of people don't even go to the legal system anymore. In the past, they always went. There was always the time when, say, for example, a mafia member was getting married, and that godfather of that family could not refuse a request. Okay, so the people would go to them, and it would get done. Okay, it would just be done, no questions, no answer. Don't ask, don't tell, so to speak. And then you got the legal system saying you got to come to us, you got to fill out the reports, go through the hoops, go through you know what I'm saying, you got to go through the procedures, and 9 times out of 10 the system will just evict them back out onto the street. And if that's the case, then guess what? Marcus Aurelius even has a saying for that: words are opinion, not fact. Action is the only truth. Okay, and at that stage, then you seek out a black magician, you seek out a warlock, a Bokor, a Maramberos. You know what I'm saying? A Duroc. And it's very interesting how so many people don't see the correlation between this stuff. And it's always best, the best revenge is to be unlike your enemy. Be either worse or don't even play the game. You know what I'm saying? Accept the things to which fate binds you. Okay, and that's another saying that I found very interesting and intriguing, because if you look at your life, I've noticed how many people that at least come to me will say, "Well, I've been doing this, 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 and this, and nothing is working. Nothing is working. It's like I just can't get ahead of it. The universe stands against me. That karma is Murphy's law now. It's all against you." See, that's malefictorum dictorum. It's the self-made curse at that point. And again, you're going right into Osiris, the god of iniquity, mate to Isis, the mother, she who holds life and death in her hands, associated with the jackal-headed dog Anubis, the embalmer, the gatekeeper, the grave protector, the protector of the grave. Interesting how that works, right? And it's even interesting because when you get into philosophies, you get into governments, you get into, like, say for example, let's go into African-based countries. It's interesting to see how the black magician, the sorcerer or sorceress, was always associated with the king in ancient tribal traditions. And nowadays, especially in the South Africa, it is a religious warfare, constant. And if you're a black magician or a sorcerer, you're put to death. Okay, you are guilty. And of communing with the devil. Okay, again, Judeo system belief structures. Um, but it's interesting because nowadays you get into any given government, you're getting into stoicism. Okay, you're dealing with not only religious belief structures, you're getting into the philosophies and the wisdoms of past emperors. You're getting into the beliefs and experience of past warriors, like that of, say, the samurais. Okay, I was recently watching a TV series based off the samurai, and a particular set of samurai in Japan that was surrounding the 14th to the 17th century, and it was very enlightening to see how you got this nobody, or what's considered to be a nobody within the family, who suddenly just eliminates the father, takes over the family, unites most of the island of Japan underneath his banner, only to be assassinated by his own apprentice, his own second in command. And then even he narrowly escapes execution at a rival. Okay. I mean, and philosophy plays a huge part in mysticism and magical operations, because you also see later on where this samurai, the one that took over, basically ended up going against a more elite version of the samurai known as the ninja, and they forged their own poisons. They forged their own weapons. They lived in the wilderness, much like a shaman or a necromancer, a witch, or a warlock. I mean, think of the hexa, or the eshi, the aji, or even the strega, for an example. These people lived either on the outskirts of town, or they lived out in the boondocks, so to speak, alone, practicing and mastering their craft. So, not only does Marcus Aurelius, speak on this, but so doesn't Stoicism. You're dealing with politics at this level, and what's interesting is that leads you into Shintoism. Okay, Shintoism is not only just the federal government, so to speak, and their belief structure, but you're also dealing with the religious and spiritual and supernatural perspectives. I like that about the Japanese, because they were really humbled. They were really honorable, and most importantly, they have this rich history and background of philosophers and artists, poetry even. And it's very intriguing to see, because once you start looking at this stuff, you're seeing where you got divisions being put into place, like the yellow shamans against the dark or black shamans. You have the church against, say, for an example, Satanism. You would see the same duality within spiritualism. You know, so I mean, the code of the samurai was something that I really liked. I really connected to it, and it really put me on that path of looking at just about every magical system out there and getting into not only the philosophy and the artistry, but also the destruction and the creation of your craft. What does it entail? You know, think of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, for an example. Unlike the Egyptian Book of the Dead, that dealt with magical, magical rituals and ceremonies surrounding the gate openings and the embalming process, the mummification process, and the cleansings of the dead. But unlike the Egyptian Book of the Dead, or that of, say, for example, the Green Emerald, the Tibetan Book of the Dead was actually the study of the soul's journey. It speaks to the ailments, the turmoil, every process that the body and the soul can go through throughout life. From that of, say, for an example, let's say, for an example, somebody has cancer. Okay, I can't speak for you, but I've known too many who have died from cancer. And so you look at the news of that, you're looking at, okay, this individual has this. Are they fighting it? Are they beating it? Did they defeat it? More so, have they come to process it in their mind and heart? Like, shit, I'm going to die. I have this disease of the cells that is rebelling against my body. There's nothing I can do. These little microbes, these little cells, you can't fight. So you have the medical community going, well, you can do this. You've got this option, and this option. Well, have you looked at the ratings of that? It's 50-50 survival. Yeah, they've managed to cure some more of the lesser versions of it. But when you get to these rare tumors. You look at the brain tumors and the way it affects the body, how it affects the family of that individual, how it affects the community, the friends and the community of that individual. You look at the weight that it weighs down, not only that individual, but the people that they're leaving behind. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. And this book here basically led me into thanatology and the study of death. It really opened my eyes within the the journey that you really do take. You're gonna have people coming in. You're gonna love those people. You're gonna hate those people. You're gonna dismiss these people. But at the same time, you look at the gods of death: Supe, Anubis, Hades, Hell. Okay, just to name a few that deal with death. You have the messengers like Hermes or Santa Morte, you know, that are able to transcend, the different dimensions and planes. And it's interesting because let me see if I can find it here real fast. I wanted you to get a kind of a feel. I must obstruct the womb entrances and call to mind the methods of reversal. This is the time when perseverance and purity of perception are imperative. I must give up all the jealousy and meditate upon my spiritual teacher with concert. Okay? Deep, deep words. Okay? And it's not just here, it's throughout this entire book. And they basically put this they basically made this the Ars Bardo, which is the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Basically made it into a play, much like they did with the Black Raven, the threefold coercion of hell. You look at Homer's Odyssey. It wasn't about the journey anymore. It was about the play, and that's what a lot of people today remember. Okay, but for the Black Adept, it's always going to be that warfare. You're going to have your followers. You're going to have your lovers. You're going to have, you know, your trials, and you're going to have those times where you're going to have to reflect upon your journey. You're going to have to reflect upon where you're going and what you want to become. Look at your image. Look at your brand. Okay, a lot of people have their brand today. To name a few, look at Frank White. Look at Curtis Joseph. Since Curtis Joseph split from Bog, he's been doing this whole scientific soul journey series. And I've been paying attention to this the last few weeks, and he's really done an excellent job on that. I really liked how he's representing it and putting it forth. Frank White is perhaps one of the realest black magicians out there. As a Luciferian, he's upfront, he's honest, and he chooses his words wisely. Okay, but I've also noticed that when he sees somebody who is earnestly seeking to grow, to learn, and to mature, he will help them. He'll even answer the questions and kind of give you a little nudge in the right direction. I know because he did that for me. And then you have somebody like, say, let's go with Tomb of the Scarab. Okay, hell of a practitioner. I love that guy's works. I love the way he represents himself, and he's so full of knowledge and wisdom. He actually puts it forth and applies it to his craft. You know, dare I say, even VK Johanna, he I'm not a big fan of him, but he is one of the greatest, practitioners out there that I know. You know, but you got to learn the difference between the real and the fake. You got to look at all applications when it comes to mythology. You look at, say, for example, the mythology, the history. You look at the spiritual applications of what they represent. You look at all avenues surrounding these spiritual entities and the followers, like say the cult of Artemis or the cult of Anubis or that of Isis. Go into, for an example, that of the cult of Aphrodite, even. Okay, the cult of Hecate. Okay, these followers did what they were told and led to believe within a religious perspective. Okay, so when you get into philosophy, you get into the arts and crafts, you get into the creation and the destruction of things. You're looking at alchemy, number one. Number two, you're looking at your own personalized journey. And like I said, the last 2 to 3 years since I got into the philosophy aspects and started delving into necromancy full time, I've come across a lot of different philosophies, different perspectives. It wasn't just my satanic roots that rebelled against this. Okay. It was literally coming to terms with that fate, that destiny. So quote, accept all the things to which fate binds you. And that's from the Book of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. You really have to listen because it's no different than listening to the spirits that you commune with. Ego unchecked is a bad thing. You need to humble yourself. Let go of the ego, kill it off if possible, and really listen to the spirits. Listen to the arts and your teachers. Those who are wise within the craft will share what they know, but they won't do the work for you. You have to be the one to evolve. I spent 30 years as a Satanist, and even I'm telling you, eventually, you're going to have to crack open that eggshell and grow, evolve. And when I took a long look, that's my 4-year-old for you. He's a weird kid, but he takes after me. So, um, so eventually, you have to reflect upon yourself, and you have to evolve. Look at that knowledge. Look at that wisdom. Look at what you've gathered. Keep two things in mind. One, you are who you associate with. Two, if things don't add up through mythology, history, archaeology, or even religious perspectives, philosophy even, then don't follow it. Get away from it because it's most likely a cult. But what I can tell you is that there are good teachers out there if you allow yourself to find them and to actually earnestly listen. All right? Have a good day, and until next time.